Hey, what's going on? It's the Mex Canadian coming at you guys with a bit of a breaking news story, but I'm sure you've already heard about it at this point. I'm a little bit late on it, but about an hour ago, an hour or two-ish ago, it was announced that the Ottawa Senators have relieved Pierre Dorian as GM. He resigned and was relieved of his duties, and I can't say this is coming as much of a shock. This comes off, obviously, after Ottawa's had a rough go of it, but this comes after the Shane Pinto suspension about gambling, which wasn't necessarily the Senators' fault, so you can't really put the blame on them, but this comes directly after the news of them losing their first-round draft pick because of a deal that went bad last year, I believe. So if you guys don't know about that deal, basically the Ottawa Senators traded Evgeny Dadonov to the Las Vegas Golden Knights, who subsequently traded them to Anaheim. But the problem with that was that the Anaheim Ducks were on Dadonov's no-trade clause. Well, why was he traded there? Why'd Vegas try to trade him there then, you might ask? Well, that's because whoever at Ottawa, whether it was Pierre Dorian or some agent or whatever, didn't file his no-trade clause with the trade. So as far as Vegas was concerned, he didn't have a no-trade clause. They didn't know that it existed because somebody in Ottawa screwed up or, on purpose, didn't send and file the no-trade clause for him. So it was determined that as punishment, Ottawa would lose their first-round draft pick, which is, look, I'm obviously, as a Red Wings fan, I'll be one of the first to not necessarily cheer, but not lose any sleep over Ottawa being punished in any way, but losing a first-round draft pick seems a bit hefty, seeing as Chicago didn't lose any draft picks for what they did, and Arizona lost the first-round draft pick for pre-testing or pre-evaluating, wherever it was, pre-testing, pre-evaluating prospects. They lost first-round draft picks for that. So a first-round draft pick for not filing paperwork seems a little hefty, but at the same time, I can see where the league is coming from, because when a player puts files for a no trade clause on their contract and negotiates stuff like that, that is an important thing, because either there's reasons they don't want to go there or whatever, but it's an important thing because that determines directly where a GM can trade them to, and you don't want to make the player unhappy, because if the player's unhappy, then the player unions and the NHLPA is unhappy, and then it's a big mess that no GM wants to deal with. So I can see where they're coming from that aspect, but a first round does seem a little bit steep to me. I was expecting maybe a second round. So it's either going to be their first round draft pick in 2024, 2025, or 2026. So it's not as hefty. Like, they could have just said, you're not getting your first round draft pick this year. At least they're giving them the choice. And if the progression that they predicted for Ottawa is to continue, there's a good chance it'll probably be the 2026 draft, because there's a good chance that won't be a lottery draft. Now, going to the whole Pierre Dorian GM getting fired as GM or resigning as GM, air quotes, like I said, it's not much of a surprise. He's boggled Ottawa in all sorts of different ways. Their cap is horrible. They can't sign Shayne Pinto. Yes, he's suspended right now, but you can't sign him. I guess involving that, I won't go too deep into it because I'm sure you guys know by now. But I guess the Senators weren't notified of the investigation into Pinto right away, but that's a whole different thing. So there was no cap room to sign Shayne Pinto. The Alex Debrincat trade was a bit meh. They went out and to be fair, Pierre Dorian didn't have a lot of room to work with, because Debrincat's basically said, yeah, I'm not going to re-sign here. He didn't ask for a trade. That's a big misconception with a lot of people, is that he didn't ask for the trade. At least as far as I know, and many other people, he didn't ask for the trade. He just said he wasn't going to re-sign. So, in all honesty, Pierre Dorian didn't have to trade Debrincat. If what I hear is true and what I've read, he didn't necessarily ask for the trade. But Pierre Dorian did because they didn't want to lose, they didn't want to get nothing from him. It's a whole situation and stuff like that, but, the losing Debrincat wasn't a good look on him. Not signing Shayne Pinto, not being able to sign Pinto because he's mismanaged their cap all the hell is a bad look on him. And then this whole Dadonov trade situation, very bad look. So it was a matter of time. It was only a matter of time before he ended up getting the boot, or air quotes, resigning. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ottawa goes from there, because, there was a lot of hype going into Ottawa from Pierre Dorian and their ownership, old ownership, I should say. And so because obviously everybody knows the famous line. The Ottawa Senators are expecting unparalleled success between 2021 and 2025. Hasn't come close to happening yet. 2021, 2022, and 2023, they were not very good. In fact, they were so bad that they got Tim Stützle out of the deal. You got that to deal with, and not only that, your team's not really any closer to that unparalleled success. Right now, I believe they're 7th in the division, so it's not looking good for them. So it's no surprise, like I said, that Pierre Dorian is getting fired. And it is a bit of it's good that they did it early, because if they did this halfway through the season, then they're going to have to deal with finding a manager, a GM in the middle of the season, which you don't want to do. So as far as I know, Steve Staios will be the interim GM before they can find one. Although I have seen that there was a name floating around that I gotta find the name of real quick, because it's okay. Here we go. Yeah, it looks like, from what people have been hearing, Peter Cirelli is making the rounds. Is a name making the rounds as the new GM, which is interesting. Because he is, I know nothing about him. Realistically, I have very little information about him whatsoever. I've never been one to look into GMs too much. There are certain GMs that I know a decent amount about, but that's because they're tried and true GMs. I don't know dick about Peter Cirelli. So, or Cirelli, Cirelli. I don't know how to say his fucking name, but it should be interesting to see where they go from here, because obviously they're like 10 games into the season, a little less, give or take. So, good thing they did it in the beginning of the season. Or you could argue they should have done it before the season, but they should have gotten rid of Pierre Dorian a while ago. He has mismanaged that team so poorly. He put one of the worst head coaches I have ever seen, as far as Major League goes, behind the bench. People talk about the Mike Babcocks and the John Tortorellas of the world. The dude they put behind that bench, at least Mike Babcock and John Tortorella never let their goaltender go out when they were going to pull him and swap him. At least they never did that, as far as I know, at least. And it's just, the Senators organization is so royally fucked. Like, it's amazing the stuff that's happened with them in just the past few months. Like the NHL news, I love the NHL news Twitter. Dadonov was traded to Vegas. The no-trade list was not provided. He was then sent to Anaheim, who was on the no-trade list. The deal was called off because of Ottawa's doing, so we were downright negligent. That's the Senators' owner saying that. At least I'm pretty sure he's the owner. I don't actually know, because I don't care about Ottawa enough to look into them that much. Yeah, Sens owner Michael Allander. We were negligent, which embarrassed the league and pissed off 2 other hockey clubs. Pierre Dorian has resigned and been relieved of his duties as GM. Steve Staios will be interim GM. So, yeah, it's obviously they're blaming Pierre Dorian without straight up blaming him. They're being very vague about it, but it's obvious they're blaming Pierre Dorian about it, which, like I said, I don't know if it's Pierre Dorian's fault per se, or if it's, an agent that didn't send it over or whatever. But yeah, it's not a good time to be a Sens fan, that's for sure. I mean, you've got a lot of talent on that team that's just going to waste. So Detroit will be happy to take Tim Stützle off your hands, you guys. Just saying. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know this video was a bit out of sorts because I didn't really have time to plan much. I only just learned about the news because I'm not on social media 24/7. But regardless, let me know what you guys think about in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen for the future of Toronto. You know, does a new GM come in and not necessarily tear it down, but kind of retool it and reshape it? Do they get a new head coach because of it? What do you guys think is going to happen? So, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is, as always, the Mex-Canadian, and I will talk to you guys later. Adios.